Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Wrestle Recap. My name is Justin Tate.
My name is Michelle Tate.
We are, as you know by now, the only brother-sister duo that takes you on the journey of wrestling throughout the decades.
And we have a real great time doing it. Justin, I feel like we haven't done this in a long time because we were at Disney World all week.
I know, and for anybody who listens to the show, they didn't notice anything because we've just been pre-recording as we've been traveling throughout this entire month, and more travel to come. But yeah, you and I just got back a couple days ago from Disney World with the whole fam. What did you think?
It was a lot of fun. It was very funny. Our 3-year-old niece, we expected so much out of her. Like we set up the phone. We were filming her for when she saw the castle for the first time, and she turns the corner and just deadpan, didn't care. And then she said, "It's tiny."
It's tiny. And later, I think she said it was poopy.
Yeah. And I'm like, girl, I agree. I don't like that they painted it that weird pink tan color. I get that, but it was pretty funny, but it's good. But you and I, we actually posted a picture of it. We got to see one of the AEW Dynamite heel face tunnels that now lives at Epcot in the Figment section.
Yeah, and it was weird because I had remembered that, just seeing, oh, weird that that's now at Epcot. And then we were leaving that ride, and I just happened to glance over there and went, oh my God, there it is. That's the Dynamite Tunnel. So if you go on our Twitter, you will see a picture of us doing the Young Bucks pose right there in front of the old Dynamite Tunnel. Pretty cool.
Yeah, and what's funny is I guess I assumed when they brought the tunnels back, because they got rid of them for a while,
right,
on Dynamite. I guess I assumed when they brought them back, they took it back from Disney World, not made another one. So I wasn't even looking for it or expecting it.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. Little wrestling connection on our trip.
Definitely. Well, something else that kind of happened that was cool this week. Hulk Hogan was at our a local grocery store here in Midland, Texas. What?
Yeah, I guess what he's doing is he's trying to sell this new Hulk Hogan beer, and they had a meet and greet where if you buy a case of his beer, you got in the line to meet him. And not only was Hulk Hogan there, Michelle, who else was there?
Oh my God, Jimmy Hart was there.
The one and only Mouth of the South.
Oh my gosh. And see, I didn't go, and I knew Justin wasn't going because number one, we just gotten back in town. We're, struggling to keep up with adult life that we missed out, for a week. And, we're just not huge Hulk maniacs around here. You know that. And once I found out Jimmy Hart was there, I was like, dang it. I wish I would have gone just for that.
Right. I think if I would have actually gone, I would have gotten Hulk Hogan to just sign, I'm a heel. And that's it.
Or like get a sound clip, be like, bro, can you just say I'm a heel? But apparently they only let in 250 people. And then he was going over to Odessa at 4:00, and they were only going to let in 50 people at that grocery store.
Oh, wow.
And then I saw that he was going to Twin Peaks, which is a restaurant, at 7. And I'm like, was he just like going to do dinner there? Like, or is he actually doing a meet and greet?
That's really, really odd. Well, I'm sure he was impressed by our fine city.
Oh, I'm sure. But it was funny. I saw a video where he like had an entrance, like, okay, so he's at United Supermarket, right? And it has, the automatic glass doors. And apparently the whole line is there waiting. And then they started playing his theme song and he walked through the glass doors. I was like, this is so sad. This is so sad.
Oh my God. But I have to wonder if he ever wrestled here back on some house show. Cause I know that like in the 80s and early 90s, WWF would do house shows here, but I would have to think that we were considered a B or C town, that Hogan probably wouldn't have been on that card. He would have been on a different loop, but it'd be interesting to find out.
I don't know. I mean, the last show we went to in Odessa like 2 years ago, the Usos were there, and that was kind of surprising. Like,
yeah.
I mean, but yeah. Anyway, I have a kind of weird story about all of this Jimmy Hart stuff later, but we gotta talk about another show right now.
Yeah, but before we do that, we got to get in the time machine.
We do. Hang on. New platform, everybody. Okay. Let's hop in that time machine. You ready?
There it is. There it is. The time machine we all know and love, taking us back to A simpler day.
Oh,
1989, WWF SummerSlam took place on August 28th, 1989. Where are we at? We're at the Meadowlands Arena in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Now, it still exists, but it doesn't hold any sporting events there. It actually acts as a staging venue for large concert tours and as a soundstage for filming, which is a pretty cool way to repurpose an old arena, I think.
like how random in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Who's like, oop, gotta go there to do some filming.
Yeah, right, right. But I can remember like so many wrestling shows being advertised as being at the Meadowlands Arena, especially the WWF. It was just, I would hear it on TV all the time. And so cool to see it here. Attendance for the show, 20,000 people. And our commentators are Jesse Ventura and Tony Schiavone.
We're gonna have to talk about that.
Okay, we'll talk about it. Let's talk about the number one song in the U.S. on this day, August 28th, 1989. Go ahead and play us a clip. That is the song Cold Hearted by Paula Abdul. Did you know that one?
No, the only Paula Abdul song I know is Straight Up Now Tell Me. I didn't even know she
Ah.
had another song. I kind of thought she was like a one-hit wonder that ended up on Idol. I don't know.
Well, that's interesting because a lot of people are on Idol and then become one-hit wonders. But
Whoa, you're right. Hashtag Ruben stuttered.
we even have one? I'm not sure.
I don't think so. I think Clay Aiken took that spot, even though he was second place. You know what's so funny, Justin? Now, because I'm always the one that cuts the sound cue for our song of the week, it's like I remember every single song of the week now because I'll hear it on the radio and I'm like, that was a song of the week one time.
I'm sorry for the damage we're doing you, but tell us about the background on this show.
Sure. So this is the second SummerSlam event in WWF history, and some consider this to be the number 2 event of the year, right behind WrestleMania. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, right now it kind of makes sense because as much as I love the Rumble, SummerSlam, they're starting to do 2 nights of that as well, but now they're talking about expanding that to other shows, making those 2 nights. But SummerSlam, they've made into a pretty big deal.
Yeah, personally, I think Royal Rumble is the second because,
Yeah.
right, like I'm biased, but also SummerSlam kind of seems to have the big matches that you feel like could also be on WrestleMania. So I understand that. Yeah,
Yeah.
but there was one dark match for the live crowd before the pay-per-view went on the air. And in that match, Dino Bravo defeated Coco Beware.
Huh. Well, I wonder how Frankie feels about that.
I don't know, but Frankie made an appearance on this show. I'll talk about that later. But before we do anything else, we got to get some
Wrestle stats.
Rassle.
Is that what you're looking for?
I am so looking for Rassle stats. Hit me, brother.
Sounds good. Well, the average age of wrestlers on this pay-per-view is 34 years old. The youngest is the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, but he wasn't the Heartbreak Kid yet. He was just one of the Rockers. He was 24 years old on this show, and the oldest to wrestle on this show, Jimmy Superfly Snuka at the age of 46. Can you believe that? Now, not a whole lot of changes otherwise as far as people we've covered on the show. So let's get to the important part, the part where we get to play some fun music. Out of the 203 wrestlers who we have now watched on Wrestle Recap, 115 of them are still alive for a percentage of 56.65%.
Still standing, alive. Jimmy Hart's still standing and alive. Hogan, he's standing. Not so sure if he's alive because in the pictures I saw this week, he had some dead eyes. But you know,
well, they contrast with the football skin.
True
is the thing. Usually at this point, we talk about who we're going to see wrestle on pay-per-view for the last time. But there is nobody on this show. Everybody who we see on this show, we're going to see them again. So that's really cool. So I think we get right into the show.
Let's do it. So we open with the SummerSlam 1989. Feel the heat. Oh my gosh, this graphic. It's an amazingly 80s fire graphic that's like, feel the heat, flames. We get a wide shot of the arena, which is 3 tiers high and very full. So again, we have Jesse and Tony Schiavone on commentary. Well, rumor has it that they being Vince and his cronies, liked Tony's excitability. So they wanted to kind of throw him into the mix and see how it would go. Jesse says something about how Tony got Bobby Heenan run off the air. Do you know what he's referring to?
I have no idea. It must have just been one of those Jesse things. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, because he shows up right in the next match. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, apparently he didn't get run off for too long. But we get another beautiful golden SummerSlam graphic, then alternating videos of like wrestling matches, and then completely random people doing summertime activities. Like there's like a random couple holding hands and jumping into a pool. Then we'll see some wrestling, a kid eating watermelon, some wrestling, a lady in a red convertible, which was like so peak 80s, 90s, right? And then there's like this really angry little boy eating ice cream. I'm like, he's got to be someone now. But yeah, summer activities for SummerSlam. Cute. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, but they get right into the first match right after that.
And let's do the same. It is a tag team match featuring the Brainbusters with their manager, Bobby Heenan, versus the Hart Foundation. We last saw all these guys on WrestleMania 5, the youngest among them, Arn Anderson, at the age of 30, and the oldest, his tag team partner, Tully Blanchard, at the age of 35. Getting into the match, first thing out of the gate, okay, I got a problem. The Brainbusters here are the WWF Tag Team Champions, but this is a non-title match. And why? And when we get to the end of the match, I'll ask why again, but it's a pay-per-view. There's the tag team champions. They're in a match. It's like paying a prostitute to shake your hand. Put the titles on the line.
Maybe they're being safe because you can't get an STD from handshaking.
You don't know some of the people I know.
Oh, Lord.
To be fair, Tony asked why the belts weren't on the line, and Jesse says it's because the match was made before the Brainbusters were champions. And I say, so the ever-loving hell what? Like we see all the time, people become a champion, and now there's stakes because their pay-per-view match has a title on the line. Like, what was the problem to putting the title on the line?
That made no sense. And I agree with you because to me, I've gotten kind of spoiled. Like if there's not a title on the line, I'm kind of like less interested. But like, what was the harm of putting it on the line?
Exactly.
It's silly. Yeah.
Tully Blanchard is on his back in a submission hold, and he sort of like ooches over. He's like, and then Arn tags Tully's foot, but the referee doesn't allow that tag. And I say, good. Like a tag is hand to hand, both your partner's feet on the apron, holding the tag rope. And yes, I do realize that every Young Bucks fan now hates me.
Hey, it's not their fault that they like to hit tags while they're flying through the air. Hashtag flippy shit.
Hashtag
I love
bullshit.
the flippy shit. I love the flippy shit.
Well, anyway, Tony, we talked about it earlier, but he sounds way more excited here than he ever sounded in the NWA. And he'll sound even more excited once WCW gets hot, and then he'll get to AEW so that he can agree with everything that Excalibur says.
Ouch. Well, it's that excitability that got him the gig, right?
Apparently so. But speaking of commentary, where was Gorilla Monsoon, you might be asking? Well, from what I could tell, the company was trying to phase Gorilla out, but it wouldn't last long, and we'll see that. But until then, this show is not a happening. Fans are literally not hanging from the rafters, and nobody will be hit in their external occipital protuberance.
Dang, man. But like, why would they want to phase him out? Like, he's excellent, especially with Jesse. I don't understand.
It might have just been trying to go for a more youthful thing. I don't know.
Ew, I don't like that. I keep muting my mic and yelling at my dogs because this is the time of year, folks, where Christmas presents are being delivered all day, every day. Because earlier, the Amazon Prime people came and I was like, oh, good. We got this over with before we started recording. And apparently someone's back. But did you notice that Tony and Jesse are calling Joey Morella by name? Like, what gives, like, that ain't his daddy? Why do they care? They're not his dad. Like, I understand why Gorilla did it, but yeah. Kind of weird.
Yeah, it's really weird that they also don't do it for any other ref. They're never like, oh, well, look at Earl Hebner over there. No, it's just Joey Morella.
It is strange, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the finish comes when the referee is distracted by Bobby Heenan on the apron. Bret Hart is pinning Tully Blanchard, but Arn Anderson hits Bret with a double axe handle and pins him despite not being the legal man. But who cares, right? The Brainbusters win the match in 16 minutes and 23 seconds. How'd you feel about this one?
Yo, man, I don't know. This match was hard for me. I don't know why. It was just like I couldn't focus, and maybe it is because, we were out of town for a week and, I was just trying to get everything back in line, but it just felt very long to me. And
Yeah.
I don't know. It didn't hit for me. What do you think?
I think especially with it being a non-title match, it kind of felt like something you'd see on a house show.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that it needed 16 minutes, but the Hart Foundation, they were popular at the time. So you do get that in your opening match, get some strong, popular guys out there. So I get it, but it wasn't, it was a match.
Right.
It was a match. Bret Hart is rarely going to have a bad match. Neither is Arn Anderson. So I get it. But after the match, Mean Gene Okerlund is backstage with Dusty Rhodes.
When I saw him, I go, "Oh shit, it's Dusty!"
So good to finally see him again. Now, it's one of those wild, borderline nonsensical Dusty promos, a lot of baby in there. And it ends with the uber threatening line, "Tonight, I'm going to kick your booty." Which I would be scared. I would be scared.
Totally.
Yeah.
He was extra flamboyant, I noticed.
Yes, he was really playing it up, and he is in our next match.
Yes, we've got a singles match, no title on the line, but it's Dusty, so it doesn't matter. So it's Dusty Rhodes versus my man, Honky Tonk Man, and he's got Jimmy Hart with him. So the last time we saw Dusty Rhodes was on Starrcade 1988. And so that was when there was the whole controversy about he keeps bleeding and the network doesn't like it. So he's gone and he's not a booker or anything anymore. And he's 43 on this pay-per-view. So he's like your age, right? No, you're 42.
I'm not there yet. Stop aging me. I have like 3 weeks to go.
I was about to say your birthday's like so soon. Well, Honky Tonk Man, he was on WrestleMania 5, and this kind of baffles me. He was only 36 on this show.
Yeah, same age as you.
Okay, that's like 2 years away from me. So that's not the same as 3 weeks, brother. Brother. But man, I'm so torn on who to root for. I know you really want Honky Tonk Man to win. But
please. I want him to win a loser leaves town match.
You're so mean. You're so mean. Well, I'm really noticing Dusty's blading scars on his arms in this match. Ouch. And what a weird place to blade too. He looks like the kids that hung out at Hot Topic when I was in high school.
Oh,
too much? Too much? Too much.
Okay.
Heyo, wham.
Stay down, emo kids who self-harm. Stay down.
I typed that out and I asked Mark, I was like, "Is that too much?" And he was like, "No." And I'm like, "Wait, this is why you're married to me, because we don't think there's too much in anything." But
right.
Anyway, well, Dusty, he's wearing his signature black singlet with the yellow polka dots with a funky looking police hat. But there's a reason that he looks so stupid. His outfit reminds me, and I don't know if you're even going to know what I'm talking about. There was a book in the 90s, and I think kids still read it, called Put Me in the Zoo. And this animal gets all these polka dots. That's what it reminded me of. But there's a reason why Dusty is acting a fool and looks like a fool. Vince wanted to make Dusty look ridiculous because, Dusty was his main competition for years, both as a wrestler and as a booker. So he wanted him to fail, which I'm like, why would you sign someone to your company when you want them to fail? That makes no sense. But obviously, Dusty took that and ran with it, and the fans loved it.
Yeah. I mean, they ate it up just because Dusty, he was just determined to overcome that. And he was just so good.
Yeah, well, and this is the first instance, in our chronological coverage of wrestling, that we've had an official specific, man, Vince was a major dick moment, that we can talk about, because up until this point, we've just kind of seen him on TV, but we didn't know about anything specifically that he did to be awful to talent. So There's that. Yay. It's the
Yeah,
first
well,
one.
and you know, Jim Ross tells a story about how he was pushing Vince to sign Mick Foley back in the day.
Mm.
And then Vince eventually agreed to it. And he told Jim Ross, I'm going to sign him just so you can learn what it is to have your heart broken.
What the hell?
Yeah. Yeah. Basically saying this man is going to fail at his job. And obviously he did not.
No. So like during this match, I'm looking at Dusty's face and I'm like, I can see so much Dustin Rhodes. I can
Yeah.
see it. But I cannot for the life of me find any Cody Rhodes in that man.
But what's interesting is I look at Cody Rhodes and I can see Dusty in him.
Really?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah. It's weird.
I know Cody had a nose job because you can Google it. And even pre-nose job, he doesn't look like Dusty to me.
That's weird. I see it sometimes, not all the time, but enough.
Yeah, well, I still maintain that Cody's lisp is a work. I swear it. I swear it.
That's some commitment.
Well, that's the thing is sometimes it's less, sometimes it goes away, sometimes it's back. I don't know. I don't know.
He's like,
But
you know, women are doing like Ozempic shots. He's doing like deadening shots into his tongue so that he has a lisp on some days. He's like, did I do my shot today? I don't think I did.
oh, that that's funny. Oh, I hate it. Oh, that like I go to the dentist and I'm one of those people who will always have a cavity. So I am used to the numb tongue post cavity filling thing. I get it. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, well, this was kind of weird. So I'm watching this match and that's when my friend Jared texted me. Like while I'm watching this match, listening to Jimmy Hart on his megaphone and says, "Hey, Jimmy Hart is at United." Like the timing was so weird.
How funny.
I know.
Like,
I said, I'm literally watching a match with him right now and like sent a picture of the TV.
he's not at United. He's in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Come on.
Come on. We weren't in the time machine yet.
Ah, that's right. That's right.
Duh.
Yeah.
Well, Jesse had a funny moment. He said, I heard Dusty Rhodes entered the Mr. America contest one time and won most abs. And like Tony paused, like there was silence. And he said, you really heard that? And Jesse said, yeah, most abs, not best abs. But like, what? Like that still doesn't make any sense. Like,
he's calling him fat.
I know, but like that means he has no abs or one big ab.
Well, and right after that, Honky hit Dusty with the megaphone in the stomach. Like, if I'm looking for a place to do damage to Dusty Rhodes, the stomach would not be my target. Like, he probably didn't even feel that until the next week. It had to like work its way through to his pain receptors.
He probably just jiggled a little bit. Was like, "Thank you, baby."
Oh, damn, my muffler shifted. What was
Ew!
that?
I forgot about the muffler. Why we gotta talk about that?
Because Dusty's back. We have to. Do you think Cody or Dustin wear a muffler?
No, because they have smaller booties.
Like Dustin's only has like half of it painted, like his face.
Oh God, that is horrible.
And then Cody's has like the little tattoo that he has on his neck, but on his muffler. They should sell muffler toilet paper where it's like Cody Rhodes logo on the toilet paper, and you can make your own Cody Rhodes muffler.
Okay. You can really hear Jimmy Hart like loud and clear. Like, did he like upgrade? Did he get like a megaphone?
Well, I realize why Jimmy Hart's voice is so high. When he holds the ropes open for someone, he holds the middle rope down with his nuts.
What?
Yeah, with like he straddles it and sits down right on his nards. And then, otherwise he'd probably sound like the Undertaker. He's like, "Come on, baby, you got him."
Bro, I've never even noticed that. And I'm gonna have to go back just to look at Jimmy Hart's powerful nuts holding the rope.
I'm telling you, he's got some strong ones.
Right. Air horn alert. Gotta love it. And I decided I'm going to bring one to All In Texas because that is the next wrestling event I'm going to as of right now. What do you think they'd do to me? Like, would they kick me out?
I don't know that they would kick you out, but they might make you watch 10 hours of the current version of ROH. So,
shots fired.
I don't know.
Dang. Hey, I got to watch when I went to Double or Nothing and went to the Collision show they shot. They actually did some ROH taping there, and it was a really good match. It was Kyle Fletcher and someone, but I wanted him to win the title so bad, and then he didn't, and it was just like the most wah wah moment. Like he was so hot, and then everyone it just died right there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That sounds
well,
about right.
you know, so we're in the ring, right? And Jimmy Hart, well, rewind. So Honky Tonk is holding Dusty, and Jimmy Hart is gonna whack him with the guitar, but Dusty, of course, like just barely moves out of the way, and Honky Tonk gets taken out with the guitar. Now, trivia, that was the first time in which Honky Tonk was hit with his own guitar. Like,
Huh.
I'm kind of surprised that hadn't happened earlier, right?
Yeah.
But the funny part is it was the worst hit ever. It was so gentle and it was so slow. The guitar did not break, but even funnier, they showed it on the floor all smashed to pieces like 10 seconds later. It was wonderful.
Like I can just imagine Howard Finkel going over there. Hold on one moment and stomping on it a few times. Okay.
I know. It was so bad. It was like he had the guitar and was like, and like bopped him on the head just barely.
I didn't want to hurt you, baby. I didn't want to hurt you.
Well, Honky, he is just out of it after that. You know, Dusty Rhodes, he wins the match in 9 minutes and 36 seconds, and Honky's leaving, and like, I mean, he's totally out of it after that, brutal guitar hit.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Brutal.
he's saying like he thinks Jimmy Hart is Priscilla Presley, and like he's like, I need to go find a stage, and Lisa Marie has a concert. Like, I just think he's so funny. Why do you hate? He's funny.
For this one show, we're getting close to the holidays. It wasn't bad.
Thank you. A Christmas miracle.
Yeah.
So what did you think of Dusty's first WWF match?
It's what it needed to be. I mean, he needed to go against a guy who was pretty much universally hated, and nobody was really cheering for Honky there. And for people who didn't really know the NWA and weren't familiar with Dusty Rhodes and everything he had done, this was a good introduction on a major stage for him.
Definitely. Like for Vince, like wanting him to look bad and wanting him to fail, he kind of set him up, right? Like he did it right for the crowd to love him. And I don't know, I call this like Dusty Rhodes on steroids or Dusty Rhodes on crack, because it's like his Dusty character times 10.
Right. Yeah. No, he amped it up a lot once he got to WWF.
Definitely. Well, Mean Gene is backstage with Demolition and Hacksaw Jim Duggan, who's wearing like this black, like BDSM style mask from that sex shop that Demolition likes so much. They say that they're going back to the basics to beat the Giant and the Twin Towers tonight. And Axe says something like they're picking up cars in the parking lot and throwing them around. Like, this is the first of many backstage promos where I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? But
this was the night of just strange ass interviews. I don't even know.
We'll get to those. But anyway, next match.
Next match is a singles match, and unfortunately, it's our job to cover it. It is Mr. Perfect versus the Red Rooster. Last saw both these guys at WrestleMania 5. They're both in their early 30s. We're still not at the point where Mr. Perfect has that iconic theme song, but you know who does have a theme song? My God.
Like legit, Justin, I thought the Red Rooster had a red Christmas bow on his head. Like I was like, why does he have a bow on his head? Like one you see on a present, but it's like it's a rooster talon. No, it's not a talon. It's a
comb.
A comb? Like
it's
a comb?
It's called a comb, isn't it?
I guess so. I was just thinking of Napoleon Dynamite. Do the chickens have large talons?
That's their claws.
Well, what's the googly thing called?
The under their chin?
Yeah.
The googly thing.
Well, regardless, the comb, now that things I learn at age 34, the comb, that's what it was supposed to be, not a Christmas present bow.
Yeah. Hey, actually 34, that's how old Red Rooster was here. So.
Oh, well, hey, I like Red Rooster. He's attractive, but.
Oh, God. Well, a gimmick is bad when a guy's opponent is mocking him, not because of like wrestling ability, but because of the ridiculousness of it all. Perfect pulls off this hip toss on the Red Rooster. An impressive move? No. But an opportunity for Perfect to cock his head back and forth like the Rooster? Absolutely. And bravo to Perfect for doing it.
Well, like, I just feel so bad for Red Rooster because he's a good-looking kid and he's like trying, gosh darn it. Like, can you imagine being given that gimmick? Like, it would take a lot of like, oh God, like a lot of effort to put so much into that. And like Vince is just jelly that he's attractive and obviously he likes to make a fool out of people he hates. So like, I don't know what he did to piss off Vince, but it's bad. But you know, you've got to admit, like, good for him for selling it with all that he could.
I will respect that to a
Okay.
point.
Okay.
Jesse Ventura says that Perfect is trying to wrestle the Rooster while Rooster is trying to make it a brawl. Look, man, I appreciate Jesse in so many ways, but there was no saving this match. There was no making this interesting. They should have made it a tar and feather match at least because of the whole Rooster and Feathers thing. This was just, and I love Mr. Perfect, but oh, good Lord. Here, you want to know the finish?
Yeah.
Perfect hits the perfect plex for the pin. All you need to know, all that matters. We can move on because Mr. Perfect wins the match in just over 3 minutes.
See, and I feel like this should have been more of a squash. Like, it was a semi squash, like 3 minutes, but I needed like a 10-second squash because as soon as this match started, I was over it. Like,
Yeah.
I was just so over it. And I was expecting like a squash, but 3 minutes is too long, man.
Well, Mean Gene is backstage with Rick Rude and Bobby Heenan, okay? What they say here doesn't actually matter. Not in the least.
Why?
What does matter is the original version of this interview. So if you're watching this show on Peacock, you didn't see this as it originally aired because that night they played the wrong tape of this interview. 2 seconds in, the SummerSlam sign in the background falls off the wall, leading to what you will now hear.
Gentlemen, as you know, the Ultimate Warrior. Fuck it. It's publicly stated that, damn it, who put that up? Is that $200 an hour?
I don't know what happened to that Gene Okerlund back there, but somebody's chasing him down. I like that. It's about time that bald-headed old man got somebody to interrupt him and cause him trouble.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what the national pay-per-view audience heard and saw on that very night in 1989. It's legendary. It's part of Botchamania forever. And it's just a great way to go into this next match.
I thought it was fantastic. They need to do more of that stuff because that's what gets people talking. That's publicity, man.
Right?
Like, look, people have been talking about this for like what, 30 years? They got to keep doing stuff like that. It's fun. But anyway, our next match is a 6-man tag team match. We've got the Fabulous Rougeaus with Rick Martel and of course with Jimmy Hart because he's everywhere, and the Rockers and Tito Santana. So all these guys were last seen on WrestleMania 5, and all of these guys range from about early 20s to early 30s. Tito Santana's the oldest. He's 36. But yeah, let's get right into it. So Jesse states before the match that the Rougeaus and Rick Martel have the advantage in this match because they can speak French, and the Rockers and Chico won't be able to understand if they communicate in the ring.
Well, I guess that's smart. They should have had Frenchie Martin there with him.
Yeah, and Dino and his macaroni hair.
Yeah, what are we doing? We need a whole French Canadian contingent here.
Yes. Well, speaking of macaroni hair, did you notice that Tito got a perm? That's cute.
Do you remember how bad a perm smelled back in the day?
Ugh, yes.
Like, imagine all these guys in the ring, which already smells like sweat and other gross stuff, and then add the smell of a perm. It would smell like your grandmother just went on like a marathon without deodorant.
Ew, yeah. Like, okay, my friend Mary, her son got a perm recently. He's like 15 because that's what all the little boys are doing. We've talked about this before. And like, Yeah, I go to the salon. I go to a nice salon, and all of a sudden, in the last year or so, I'm smelling this nasty perm from the 80s, 90s. Like, you would think they would have made it smell better, 30 years later, but no, they haven't. It smells the exact same, and it's actually kind of nostalgic in a way. But
I'm gonna pour some Febreze in that shit or something. I don't know.
it's terrible. And like every time, it's like a 14-year-old boy getting a perm. It's so weird.
They'll
And
regret it.
they will. They will. They're going to look back at their yearbook photos and be like, oh, God. But
Look at
I
that
will say,
perm.
my friend Mary's kid, it looks really good. I'm not going to lie. It looks very natural.
Mm.
But another thing I noticed, Jesse called Tito Santana Tito for what I think is the first time.
Ooh.
He called him Tito when he was talking about how great and how smart of a wrestler he is. But then he went right back to calling him Chico.
Well, Tito did like 90% of the work in this match. Like Marty
Yeah.
Jannetty had time to go bang 5 of his family members before
Oh.
getting back into the match.
Oh, I saw a post about Marty Jannetty in bed with some young girl today, and she was like, "Oh, finally made it in bed with one of the rockers," and I was like,
Oh,
it was
my
on,
God.
it was on like cringy wrestling posts or something like
Oh,
that. It was
God.
weird. So at this point in the show, we've gotten going a little bit. How are you feeling about Tony and Jesse on commentary together?
Yeah, I mean, the chemistry's not there, which of course they're not going to have the chemistry that Jesse and Gorilla have. But it just, I don't know. It just isn't working for me.
I agree. I think there is a level of chemistry there because they're both really good at their jobs. I feel like Tony's doing good. I think Jesse feels thrown off.
Maybe so.
And I think it's because Gorilla feeds into Jesse and they're like person A and B, and like Gorilla gives himself up to person A.
Right.
And it's almost like you've got an A and an A together. Did any of that make sense of what I just said?
No, it does, because Gorilla also knows Jesse's humor
Mhm.
and doesn't mind setting up the joke or making himself the butt of the joke,
That.
Whereas Tony's calling a match and Jesse's just trying to, I think I have a joke about that,
Yeah, and then it kind of falls flat because no one like helps build it up or helps like follow through. And so,
Right.
yeah, that's a good way to put it. But the crowd is super hot for this match, especially for the Rockers. And like they're way louder during this match than they have been for the rest of the show. But is it for the Rockers or is it just for Sean?
Well, if so, you could say that Sean has a leg up on Marty.
That was me slapping my forehead for everyone who's just listening. Wow. Wow. Well, I don't know. I was gonna make a joke about Marty's eyes crossing, but I couldn't think of one.
Yeah, it's fine.
Well, Marty Jannetty has Jacques Rougeau pinned, but then Martel comes in, punches Marty in the face, and gets the 3 count. So the fabulous Rougeaus and Rick Martel win the match in 14 minutes and 58 seconds. How'd you feel about that 6-man tag?
Again, so many of these matches, I'm just going, ugh. Like, they're not bad matches. I just don't care.
Yes, I agree. I just don't care. And I didn't know if it's just like this post-vacation lull that I was like, why do I not care about this match? Like, am I just like distracted? But then when you said the same thing, I was like, okay, it's not just me. It feels like a house show on TV a little bit.
It kind of does. And I'm sure that it would help if we were watching weekly TV up to this point, and it would explain some stuff. But a lot of it is still like, is this really our blow off to some sort of feud on TV? I don't know. It's just not hitting with me yet.
Fully agree with you. Well, after we get a recap of the Rick Rude Ultimate Warrior feud, and oh God, there's the pose down.
No.
They're showing it again. When will they stop? Like I literally yelled, not the pose down. Thought about, when I listen to podcasts, a lot of times I will put it on that super speed of like 1.5 times the speed because I don't know, people talk slow to me and I want to get the information quicker. And this was one of those times where I wish I could do that on a pay-per-view where like, I don't want to fast forward completely, but I'd like to get through it quicker because this was a lot of recap that I didn't need. But oh man, we were talking about the weird backstage interviews, promos. Wow. So Ultimate Warrior cuts a promo backstage and man, like think about drinking like 300 Red Bulls or maybe even just injecting them directly into your veins and then cutting a promo, because that's what it was. Like, he was uncomfortably hyped up. And like, he says something about being on a weak planet and then says Rick will surrender the IC title to the gods above. And like, that's all I got from that, because I couldn't understand him. And he was just, I mean, it's like every vein in his neck and arm and like, it hurt me. And so, yeah, that's all I got from that. Did you get anything else?
I think my cholesterol went up or something.
Yeah.
I don't, boy, it was just, of course, Warrior's never given a promo that wasn't completely out there, but it fits in with the whole thing where these interviews tonight are just weird.
They're super weird. Well, all I'm going to say about that is, okay, let's go to the next match.
Well, it is the only title match on this show, and it is a single match for the WWF Intercontinental Championship. The champion, Rick Rude, with Bobby Heenan versus the Ultimate Warrior, who we just talked about. Saw both these guys on WrestleMania 5 in this same match. They faced each other. So this is a rematch. Both guys are 30 years old here. And at this point, Rick Rude had been the champion for 149 days after he defeated the Ultimate Warrior for the belt at WrestleMania 5. So let's get into the match. So Rick Rude comes down, does his standard bit of telling sweat hogs to keep the noise down while he takes his robe off so the women can see what a real man looks like. Never gets old. I don't know if it was a mistake or not, but we got his original music while he was taking his robe off. It wasn't the dubbed stuff. So it's always great to hear stripper music replaced with other stripper music. Rick also has an image of a crying Ultimate Warrior airbrushed onto his tights. Did you see that?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what it was for the longest time, because like, he's got his legs all spread out. I'm like, got my head turned to the side. I'm like, what is that?
Yeah, I just didn't want to know where the tears come from.
Oh, that's nasty. You nasty, Justin. No, Rick Rude called us viewers fat and out of shape. That's so rude. Like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah, there it is. A Warrior enters, and in the crowd, oh my God, somebody is holding the exact same Ultimate Warrior poster that I had in my bedroom as a kid. The screaming face, the flames, the face paint, the oddly hard nipples. It was the poster I had.
I saw it. That is the nipple poster. That one, like, that's the poster that as a child, I knew he had weird nipples and I questioned it. They were just like white and very large.
Yeah. You could like find underground water with them. You could knit a scarf with them. They were big.
How weird though that people would like bring posters like on big pieces of paper and just hold them up at the show. I feel no one does that. Do they even make posters anymore?
I don't know. I'd have to go to a Spencer's and flip through that rack and see if there's anything in there. But, here's one of those moments that made me appreciate Jesse Ventura, as if he needed more of those moments. Outside of the ring, Warrior hits Rick Rude with the belt and like just straight up hits him. No attempt to hide it from the ref or anything. And Jesse asks why the ref allows this. And Tony Schiavone mumbles some bullshit about, well, it's outside the ring. But then Jesse takes it further. Well, could you shoot somebody as long as it's outside the ring? Like Jesse, he gets this triple jab in. He says, Tony is dumber than Monsoon, and it's ridiculous that Joey Morella would allow this. And I love Jesse.
Me too. I put this entire exchange in my notes as well. And it was funny because I typed it all out and then I come to our little notes shared document. And I was like, oh, Justin already typed all that out. I didn't need to do any of that. But it cracks me up. And especially because I feel like with the whole Joey thing, he's like taunting Gorilla when he isn't there to defend himself or his son. Like, it's super great stuff.
Especially if Gorilla was like maybe backstage working in the Gorilla position or something so that he could hear it. That makes it even funnier.
Right. Well, this match was a meat match before meat matches were a thing, And like, I don't even know if it's a meat match or I'm just going to call this like the 1% match because it's like 1% body fat between the two of them. There is no fat. There's like no butt. It's just muscle. It's a rump.
Yeah. Like you have to think that like these guys don't even like stop for an Oreo or something. Like they are just hardcore, nothing but, lean stuff. It's crazy how cut these guys are.
How sad. You can't even stop for an Oreo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Think of that
God.
life.
That's
Think of that life.
horrible.
The sacrifices these men make.
Right.
Well, Warrior takes a leap off the top rope right when somebody blows an air horn. Like his feet leave the rope and you hear, "Meh." It's like he farted himself off the top rope. It was comedy gold.
Which is why they need to allow air horns in shows because obviously they weren't taking this dude's air horn because you hear it all night long. Like it was so funny. And I almost for half a second thought it was like planned. Like they did that on purpose. And then I was like, and then I was thinking, did that audience member do that on purpose? Like, was he waiting for that moment or did he just do it and the timing worked? Like,
I also want to take an air horn to a taping of The Price is Right. And then whenever somebody spins the big wheel and squats down, meh.
I thought you were going to say that.
Right.
Oh, funny. Well, Warrior keeps throwing Rick Rude out of the ring, and I was getting like oddly annoyed by it. And then Jesse commented on it, and he said, "Well, he can only wrestle him outside the ring, not inside the ring." And again, like I agree with Jesse.
He calls it like it is. And I'm so excited because he just said in an interview that not only is he doing this month's Saturday night's main event, the commentary there, but they're planning on doing 4 of these a year. And he's contracted to do the commentary on all of them.
Oh my God. Do you know, have they announced who his partner's going to be yet?
I don't think so. I mean, I would assume it's going to be Michael Cole, but since he's more aware of what's going on, but what's that?
I want Pat McAfee. Just because it would be funny.
Can you imagine those two together?
Pat McAfee has done the incredible feat of making Nick Saban likable because, Nick Saban, he was for you people that don't know, AKA Justin, he was the coach at Alabama for a very long time. And he's like probably the GOAT. Like he's known to be probably the greatest college football coach of all time. And now he's on College Game Day. And he's always been like very stoic, no personality. But Pat like pulls it out of him. And now everyone really likes Nick Saban. And like Pat tries to like, they always have food on College Game Day and he'll just like, Nick will be talking and you'll see Pat's hand with like a rib come into the camera and like put it in his mouth. It's super funny. So I don't know. I think Pat might have the personality and like the quickness to be able to play off of Jesse's sense of humor.
Well, that Saturday night's main event, as when this show comes out, it will have aired last night. I'm going to be out of town, so I'm not going to be able to watch it till after the fact. But I'm basically just watching to hear Jesse on commentary again. That's it.
Oh yeah. What network is that on?
I'm going to guess NBC, but I'm not sure. You can find out.
Okay. Yeah, because I would like to watch that, and I didn't know if it'd be on like Peacock or if it's going to.
It might be. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But from here, the match gets crazy hot, okay? And it's leading to the finish. Back and forth, near falls, a ref bump, but that's when Roddy Piper comes down the aisle, ringside, and Rick Rude is distracted by this. Piper lifts his kilt and flashes his Scottish ass to Rick Rude. Must be where he keeps his haggis or something. I don't know, but I was like, wait, what? What just happened?
Do you know what haggis is?
Yeah, it's food.
Do you know what it is, though?
Remind me.
It's like a bunch of the organs of like a sheep all stuffed
that's right.
to the stomach and like boiled. Is nasty. But
yeah, well, that's a place to keep your haggis.
Nasty. Well, again, why is mooning not a thing anymore? It's such a funny activity. Like it's an insult, but it's not like sexual or like exposing because everyone has a butt.
The one man keeping it alive is our dear friend Roger, who I've seen his ass more times than I've seen my own.
I agree with that. And like, honestly, like his butt doesn't age. Like for 20 years, that man's been mooning me. And like his butt looks nice and firm and fresh all the time.
and it has a mullet just like his head does. It's crazy.
We love Roger. Well, can I just say, Ugh, I hate this, and I hate it for myself. I hate when the heel is about to get pinned and then they put their foot on the rope at the last second. And like, why do I hate it? Because I forget about the rope and it surprises me every time. Like, they get me every time. Like, why do I not see this coming?
You're rope blind. That's the problem.
Apparently.
Yeah. Well, Warrior hits the shoulder tackle, then the press slam and the splash for the 1-2-3. Ultimate Warrior wins the match and the Intercontinental Championship in 16 minutes and 2 seconds. Did you think this was a fun one?
I did. I liked this match. It was probably this was probably my favorite match on the entire show, honestly. I think it had the most energy and like, I guess I just care the most. But again, it was a title match.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. No, I agree. I think out of all of them, this is the one I was most invested in for various reasons. And it was good stuff. So Sean Mooney's in the middle of the crowd, which is completely forgettable, except there's a guy wearing a Batman 1989 t-shirt. Back then, when that first Michael Keaton Batman movie was coming out, that logo was everywhere. So it was really cool to see that here. Mean Gene is backstage with Mr. Perfect, who reminds us that he and his record are indeed both perfect. Then Roddy Piper comes in and asks, what's a Scotsman wear under his kilt? His shoes. And then like he makes some vague cocaine reference, which likely explains this entire interview. What was this?
dude, like, I'm not even saying this in an accusatory manner. I'm not saying that they were wrong or that they did anything, but all of the interviews tonight seem influenced by like meth or cocaine. Like the energy and the lack of making sense. Like, am I wrong here?
It would explain a lot. It would explain a lot, including some of the booking on this show. But Ronnie Garvin comes in wearing a tuxedo for some damn reason. And he's interrupted, though, by Bobby Heenan and Rick Rude almost immediately complaining about Piper's interference in that last match. And there's great timing here from Rick Rude. They show the replay of Piper's butt, and Rick Rude says, and then Piper shows his ask Bobby what happened. Really good stuff there. Just subtle for the adults in the room. After that, we go back to Tony and Jesse. They toss to a 5-minute intermission, which we don't see at home, thankfully. After that, we're back with Mean Gene, who shows us the build-up to tonight's main event. And after all of that, which took a while, it's time for another match.
Yes, sir. And I kind of wish they still did those 5-minute intermissions, but instead they've just filled it with like Roman Reigns' entrance. They're like, oh, this is the intermission. Everyone go to the bathroom. But we've got another 6-man tag team match, and it is Andre the Giant and the Twin Towers with Bobby Heenan and Slick versus Demolition and King Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I love that guy. But we saw all of these dudes on WrestleMania 5. This is getting to be a common thread. And I was just talking about it today, and I was like, I feel the roster at this point only had like 20 wrestlers because I feel like we're seeing the exact same people on every single show.
Yeah, we really are. And, you know, the fact that they're staying for quite a while for the most part, especially in WWF, where, you know, the money was good and they were working a lot of days a year, but they were making more money than they would anywhere else, really.
Right. Well, Andre the Giant, he's 43 in this match. Like, he's slowly climbing up. And I feel like, you know, we've been watching these 1989, 1988 pay-per-views for a long time, but I feel like he's aging quickly. I don't know if his hair's kind of longer and maybe that makes him look a little older. I don't know, but I don't know. I just feel like he's deteriorating and I hate it.
Yeah, it's sad to watch because we know in hindsight how his health was. Fans at the time didn't. And they might have noticed that he was getting slower, but knowing now how his health is, it's just like, oh my God, like let this guy go home, please.
Do you think he wanted to be there, or do you?
I think he did.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think he did in any capacity, but you know, it's just your body's going to do what it's going to do.
Right. Well, the youngest in this match is Big Boss Man. He was only 26. And I'm like, what? He got that Arn Anderson syndrome a little bit.
Yeah, right.
Well, Jim Duggan's American flag makeup is actually really cool and impressive. I'm like, did he actually have like 50 stars? Because it was very intricate. I liked it. However, I do wish he would have dressed like Demolition. And by dressed, I mean wrapped black strings around his torso. And that's it.
Oh, boy. The mental image of Jim Duggan in S&M gear walking towards me carrying a 2x4 yelling, "Ho!" Not like, no. No.
You don't think that the S&M gear like adds a little something?
No. He would say ho and I'd say no.
Well, man, Big Boss Man, he had pit stains like all the way down to his hips before he even wrestled. And like he even had a sweat river coming out of his belly button.
Yeah, like how is Boss Man already sweaty? Like it doesn't look like he poured water all over himself, aka the Seth Rollins special. But in kayfabe, was he always this sweaty when he was a prison guard? Because like maybe that's why he went to wrestling. The prison system couldn't afford the uniforms he kept ruining.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe it was more like prisons like don't have air conditioning. Because I seriously wondered, I was like, why is he so sweaty and no one else is? Because it doesn't look like he's like oiled up. It looks like sweat and like he's hot.
Yeah.
It was really weird. But what a weird camera shot. Did you notice this in the match? I've never seen anything like it. They filmed the match through Axe's legs. Like he's standing up on the ring, like on the apron behind the ropes, and you see his legs. It's like a V, and they're watching the match through his legs. And it was like an attempt at like being artistic or sexy, but it just looks so strange. Did you see that?
That's what we call the teabag cam, Gorilla.
Oh, yeah.
Do you ever teabag Mrs. Gorilla?
Or if you're Tony, he'd just completely blow over that and keep going.
Yeah, he'd be like, "Oh, I'm a coffee drinker, Jesse." Anyway.
Exactly. Totally.
Oh my God. What are we doing?
I don't know. The show is weird.
The crowd is chanting USA. Minus Andre, everybody in the match, including the referee, is from the USA. So East Rutherford, you kind of suck.
It's because of Jim Duggan, because he's America.
Yeah, but what's everybody else? Are we not all American?
Yeah, but like not as patriotic.
So you're saying if I walk through somewhere, let's just say the sliding glass doors at United, you wouldn't chant USA for me?
Not if your face wasn't painted like an American flag.
Fine.
Oh gosh, I just keep thinking about Real American and him coming through those doors and like the pharmacy.
It's so cringy.
The pharmacy's like on the right. I'm like, this is so like.
It's like they interrupted the music to be like, can we please get a clean up on aisle 6, please? Clean up on aisle 6.
And the funniest part is that they did this whole thing right next to the pharmacy. And I'm like, are you trying to tell them they're old without telling them they're old? Like,
well, he needed some more injections. And I'm not talking about the weight loss ones. Anyway.
Well, I was thinking he probably cleared them out of their like tanning oil section everywhere he goes. He's just collecting more oil. But
take me to the cosmetics, brother.
Well, dude, back to this match. Smash body slammed Akeem, and I was just like, damn.
That was an accomplishment. I think he slammed Boss Man too right after, and then he tried to slam Andre and went, nope.
And I wonder if he could have, but they're still trying to paint that illusion that like Andre's untouchable. So you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Because like if Hogan did it at Mania and then all of a sudden everybody else could do it, it would be kind of weird. Like, well, what was wrong with everybody before then?
That's true. I hadn't even thought about that. But Jim Duggan knocks out Akeem with his America 2x4 because it's painted too. And then he pulls Smash on top of him just in time for the ref to see and count to 3. And
is this not the point that we say Duggan is a heel? I mean,
we've been saying that for a long time, but apparently Gorilla justifies it, so it's fine.
Okay.
Demolition and Jim Duggan win the match in 7 minutes and 23 seconds. But the funny part here was the look on Andre's face, because he looked so shocked and just like befumbled on how they would have the gall to do that.
He was actually thinking, I gotta poop.
Hey, that's not nice. He might be wearing a muffler because he's
I
older.
need a muffler.
So you sound like Chewbacca or something. Notice something here. commentary says something about how if the ref doesn't see it, it didn't happen. And I've noticed at this point in the show, they have said this several times, like to explain away shenanigans. And like they need a new way out of shenanigans than just that because it's cheap and it's getting boring.
Nothing gets older than the ref is stupid. The guy who is paid to be the best in the world at doing this and calling wrestling matches is too stupid to do his job. I don't get the logic in it.
I don't get it either. It's kind of like how from about 2001 to about 2017 in horror movies, they would always take out their cell phone and say, my phone is dead, or they would say, I have no signal. In every single horror movie, they would say that so that you couldn't say, why didn't they just use their phone and call someone? And it got cheap and old because it was like, oh, okay, come up with something better, you know? So anyway, do you like the match? You like that?
It was kind of fun seeing Hacksaw out there in his demolition face paint, the mask and everything. I mean, I don't think that this one, I don't think anybody thought this was going to be like, oh my God, this is Steamboat Flair, you know? Yeah. It was kind of the let 'em up match.
Yeah, I agree. And I really think that Jim Duggan just like made the whole match for me. He's just
Pretty
fun.
much.
He brings energy. He brings a spark to the show. I love that man. Love him.
Yeah.
Well, Mean Gene is backstage with Ted DiBiase and Virgil, and Ted says he's going to prove that he is the greatest athlete when he makes Snuka another statistic, just as he did to Jake Roberts. And that's really all he says before we go to the next singles match.
Yeah, let's do it. It's Greg Valentine with Jimmy Hart versus Hercules, or Herc, as you know.
I hate that noise. Like.
Again, saw both these guys on WrestleMania 5, and we start off with Howard Finkel announcing our special ring announcer, Ronnie Garvin. So that's why he was in the tuxedo earlier. Now, if you'll remember, Garvin was in a feud with Greg Valentine over something, and then Ronnie Garvin was forced to retire, but then Greg Valentine asked to bring him back so that he could face him again. I don't know.
Dude, I was trying to remember what the hell Debbie Lynn did to Ronnie Garvin to make him so savage, but I couldn't remember either. Like I was racking my brain, and then I think I Googled it and I was like, I don't remember this at all. So I guess maybe it happened on TV and began and concluded like between the pay-per-views, so we didn't really cover it. Just kind of weird. Yeah,
it was weird. Well, after announcing Hercules, by the way, Hercules doesn't wear a shirt and he has that chain around his neck. He had to get his nipple pinched at some point, right? By that chain, like not in the good way, but like in a way where he would have to explain it to people who he meets at the beach and ask why he's missing a nip.
Well, if he has hard white lima beans for nipples like Ultimate Warrior, he'll be just fine.
Well, anyway, Garvin announces Greg Valentine, but he uses it to get in as many jabs as possible. He's like, he claims he's 249 pounds, but looks about 30 pounds overweight to me. He's the only wrestler with 2 left feet. He wears a robe with cheap rhinestones. You get the idea. It was actually kind of funny.
It was funny, and it was literally just like the 1980s version of a roast. You know, we do those roast on like Tom Brady and Netflix and all that, but it was just one line after the other. And I wonder if Debbie Lynn knew what was going to be said beforehand. Like, did he think it was funny? And like, I kind of feel like he was mad based on the lack of pulled punches later on, but no spoilers.
Yeah. No, I would hope that he didn't know. Like, I think that's just so much more fun. But Greg's tag is hanging out of his trunks. And he seems like the kind of guy who would write his name on the tag so nobody else would take them. Like, of course, it would say Debbie Lynn. I mean, that's just a foregone conclusion. I don't want anybody else taking these tights that say the Hammer on the back.
He really needs it on his butt. Debbie Lee.
Yeah. Does Hercules look less cut here? Like not as defined? More like Hercules. Am I right?
Dude, I noticed the same thing. And I always feel bad when I notice like wrestlers getting chubbier because I mean, no hate. I understand it. But I was going to say Hercules got a belly and some hips all of a sudden. He's really putting the her in Hercules.
There it is. We
Wham.
can take either half of the name. It works on so many levels. Just
Wham. Yeah.
aren't you glad you tuned in today, kids? Anyway, Greg Valentine gets the pin in the corner with both of his feet on the ropes and wins the match in just over 3 minutes.
Yeah. And like, call me crazy, but I feel like the ropes actually helped him, like having his feet up there. And why? Because it put more weight on Hercules to keep him from raising a shoulder. Am I wrong here?
No, you're not. And that's always the entire point, but it works so well here because like the angle he was able to get at, considering their proximity to the ropes, it actually looked believable that it would make Hercules struggle to get up.
Yeah.
But post-match, Ronnie Garvin announces the winner as Hercules. And Hercules celebrates, and Greg Valentine and Jimmy Hart look on in kind of mild interest. And the referee is like, dude, that isn't how this works. So Ronnie Garvin says, I'm sorry, it seems I was misunderstood. Like, no, we understood you. That's the problem. You're just wrong.
Right.
So then Garvin announces, by disqualification, your winner is Hercules. That still doesn't make sense. We don't go off of what the ring announcer says. We go off of what the referee says. And that's when Valentine comes over and just drills Ronnie Garvin so hard. I was watching this on an airplane and out loud said, Jesus. And then the guy next to me said, it's Jesus and the hat is attached. They continue brawling, but the entire time Hercules' crappy trumpet fanfare is playing. So it made everything even more comical than it already was. You got this guy in a tux and some guy in underwear fighting to this. It was great.
It was great. And like, that's what I was talking about, that hit where you were like, oh, Jesus, like that did not look like kayfabe, like wrestling. That looked like he legit like took him out. And I was like, was he pissed? And like the whole announcing so I didn't like the whole Ronnie Garvin announcing it and all that and announcing that Hercules won and by disqualification because it was not clear on if it was a mistake. Like, I need to see, like, know that, like, oh, this is what he's doing. He's working, but it almost seemed like a mistake. So it makes it kind of awkward.
Right. Yeah. It didn't quite work. Like, we got the idea, but, you know.
Yeah.
Mean Gene's backstage with Randy Savage, Zeus, and Sensational Sherry. And, all right, they're standing over this cauldron, right? Like a witch's cauldron. And it's overflowing with smoke. And everybody except Gene is leaning over it and inhaling the smoke. It's like they're trying to hotbox Gene out of there or something. And then they talk about like all the awful things that they can see in the cauldron as it apparently tells the future of Hulk Hogan and Brutus Beefcake. Michelle, you wanted the weird shit era. Here you go. We are here.
Okay, like I wanted weird shit, not meth. Like they're cooking meth. They're literally cooking meth on TV in a cauldron. And like, I was just so confused. Like this face right now, that's the face I was making because I was like, what? Did I switch TV shows? Like, what am I watching right now? This is the methiest backstage interviews. Oh God, I hated it. I was just so confused. Like, is it going to continue to be this weird where I don't know what's going on?
I can't say yes, but I'm afraid to say no. I don't know.
Lord have mercy. Let's go to the next match. Good Lord.
Yes.
Speaking of drugs, it's Jimmy Snuka versus Ted DiBiase with Virgil. Well, we last saw Ted DiBiase on WrestleMania 5. He's becoming one of my favorites, but he is 35 years old on this pay-per-view. But we saw Jimmy Snuka very briefly, randomly in a pay-per-view before where he just like came out then disappeared. So we didn't really talk about him and like the history behind him because he didn't wrestle. But we're going to talk about him right now. So Jimmy Snuka was born May 18th, 1943. Good Lord. That was like right after World War II ended. Man,
Right
but
before, I believe.
yes,
Didn't it end in 45?
it started in 42, 41. Well, into 41, 42. Because
For those interested, listen to our other podcast, history recap.
no, it's called Justin and Michelle went to public school in West Texas, and so we don't know when wars started. That's what it's called. Whatever. You got to go to private school. You were the favorite kid.
For a couple years.
Well, Jimmy, like I said, he was born in 1943 and he died in 2017 at the age of 73, but he is the oldest on this pay-per-view at 46. So the last pay-per-view we will see him wrestle on is WrestleMania 25. Holy moly, he's 46 and we just did WrestleMania 5.
Yeah.
We got 20 more.
We're going to see him for a while.
Man, well, his real name is James Wiley Smith, which pretty generic. I'd probably change it too. But before wrestling, he had a career as an amateur bodybuilder. And upon entering wrestling, he bounced around various NWA territories and he won like multiple championships. But what you don't know is he is the father of former WWE stars Sim Snuka, obvious, and Tamina.
Yeah.
Tamina.
And for a while there, they did have her coming out as Tamina Snuka, but then they dropped the Snuka part for reasons we're probably about to talk about.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Do I say it wrong? I've always said Snuka.
I've heard it both, Snuka and Snuka.
I like it Snuka, like Snoop Dogg or something. I don't know. But anyway, he was the subject of an episode of Dark Side of the Ring. Oh, it was wild. And it covers the allegations that he killed his girlfriend in 1983. However, because of conflicting stories and rumors of a cover-up orchestrated by Vince McMahon, where was that in the Netflix documentary about Vince? Come on now. Jimmy wasn't arrested and charged until 2015. However, due to issues with dementia and a terminal illness, Snuka was declared unfit to stand trial, and the case was dismissed just 12 days before his death.
Unbelievable.
Unfreaking believable. I need to line up the evidence. I need to see it all. I need a true crime doc just on this because Dark Side of the Ring did not go in depth enough for me.
No, it's a wild, wild story. And there's plenty out there. If you search around, there's a couple of message boards that really have some details that are just like, oh, rough.
Oh, yeah. I need to get on Reddit after this. Well, when Snuka's entrance music started, it was a weird voice. And I heard the Superfly, and I thought someone was burp talking, which I would recognize because I am amazing at burp talking.
I have envied your burp talking for years. I don't know how you do it. You burp louder and longer than anybody I've ever met in my life, man or woman, child or beast. I don't know how it works, but it's weird because hearing his music, I mean, he gave me chills. I was like, oh my God, there's that Superfly music. But really, like, his music doesn't really fit him.
Not at all.
It has like this weird synthesized saxophone in there, but he's a guy from the jungles of Tonga. So it's like watching the shower scene from Psycho, but listening to a polka band. It's just like, I don't know. I guess I can get into it, I guess.
No, it's very true because, like Rick Rude, like, oh my God, it totally fits him. Everyone else is like Doink the Clown. But no, I agree with you. It's super strange. And I almost was like, is this dubbed in? Like, because it sounded weirder than I would remember. But like, did this match have a story behind it or was it just totally random? Because it feels random and the crowd seems restless.
I think that it is still keeping Ted DiBiase relevant as the $1 million champion while also reintroducing Jimmy Snuka.
Yeah, well, Snuka had a leapfrog botch. Whoops, because he did one. And so Ted, barely got under there. And then the next one, big time botch on that leapfrog.
Bang, right in the coconards.
Coconards! Okay. Frankie, did you hear a bird in this match? Because I heard it many times. I was like, Frankie, that you?
Michelle?
What?
There is help available.
You didn't hear that? No, Mark heard it too.
A bird.
I don't know if it was like someone. Okay, you know how men randomly whistle and they'll be like, "Choo, choo, 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 choo." I can't do it, but like every dad in the world knows how to do it. It was like someone was doing that in the crowd, but it sounded like a bird.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Don't look at me like that. It happened.
So you were talking a lot about how these interviews seem very drug influenced. Is this experience talking? Could it?
Bro,
Look,
I
you're in
might
a
be-
safe space here. Nobody else is listening.
whatever. Screw you. I heard a bird. Mark heard a bird. The bird was there.
Okay, fine.
Well, man, Ted DiBiase, he wins this match via countout in 6 minutes and 27 seconds. And this match is lame. Like, there's no stakes. It's a countout in 6 minutes. Lame. Meh.
Yeah, it was dumb too because they mentioned earlier in the match that hitting Snuka in his head is a dumb move because he has such a hard head.
Mhm.
But how does Jimmy lose the match? By going head first into the ring post and being counted out. So yeah, bleh.
Bleh. Well, afterward, Snuka attacks DiBiase and Virgil, but honestly, like no one really cares. Like the crowd is just kind of and like it's like they're just talking amongst themselves. Like there's some noise coming from them, but they're just like talking to each other, and like some folks are like waving to the camera from afar while Snuka is hitting this huge splash on Virgil. Like they even had a light cue for it. Like he's in the air and the lights flicker and flash, but just no one really cared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't either.
Yeah, I didn't either. Well, oh Lord, Justin, here we go.
Oh, God.
Hulk Hogan and Brutus are backstage with Mean Gene, and Hogan says, "Ever since me and Brutus hooked up, we've been hanging and banging." Whoa.
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 All right. All right.
Yes. Well, anyway, he brings up parting a body of water again. He says he's like Moses parting the Hudson River while Hulkamania acts like pull over their cars and watch on with big eyes from the side of the road or something. And then Brutus talks about his clippers and the blades and how they're like legitimate steel. And then Hulk goes back to the Hulkamaniacs on the side of the road. And he says something about how someone's wrapping their legs around him and pointing their headlights at him.
No. Wait. He's talking about Elizabeth.
What the hell?
He's literally saying in there that he's on a Harley and Elizabeth has her legs wrapped around him, arms hanging on for dear life, and a smile across her face and headlights pointing straight ahead. Hogan is legit talking about Liz Nips.
Well, why didn't he like say her name? Like, did he say her name at any point?
He either said it or like hinted at who he was talking about. Like I think that was it. We were supposed to know exactly who he was talking about.
What the damn hell are all of these wrestlers talking about tonight? Like, for real, what are they talking about? What are they trying to say? I looked at Mark and I said, is this making any sense to you? Because I feel dumb. Like, I'm like, am I just tired? Like, and I don't get it. He's like, no, I don't get it either. So, good God. Well, we are at the tag team match. Take it away.
Here is our main event. It is Brutus Beefcake and Hulk Hogan with Miss Elizabeth, who we don't see yet when we first get the entrances, versus Randy Savage and Zeus. Now, this is interesting because earlier in their careers, Hogan and Beefcake actually teamed together, like way earlier in their careers as the Boulder Brothers. And so to see them kind of joining back up here, a lot of fans of the WWF maybe hadn't really seen this before. We've seen all of these guys wrestle on pay-per-view before, except for one, and that is Zeus. Okay, that might be a name that's unfamiliar. So let's get into him really quickly. Born on June 24th, 1958, he died just a few years ago in 2020 at the age of 62. But on this pay-per-view, he's 31 years old. And the final pay-per-view we'll see him wrestle on is WCW Uncensored 1996. Now, that might make you think he had a long wrestling career. He didn't. His real name, Thomas Dwayne Lister Jr. Now, he was born, if you look at him, you can tell something's funky with his eyes. He was born with a detached and deformed retina, which caused him to be blind in his right eye. Thing is, he was more known as an actor than a wrestler.
He was in Friday.
Right, he was. From what I could find, he only had 5 wrestling matches ever. 3 in the WWF, one in Puerto Rico, and one in WCW. So that's Zeus. Okay. And this is the first of those 5 matches. So let's get into the history, kind of why we have this match. Back in June, the movie No Holds Barred was released, which starred Hulk Hogan. His nemesis in the movie was played by Zeus. All right, Tom Tiny Lister. Now, you might recognize him from the Friday movies or a few other things, but since the WWF financed the movie, they decided to have the rivalry spill over into the wrestling world. And right before Hogan was going to defend the championship against Big Boss Man on an episode of Saturday Night's Main Event, Zeus showed up and attacked the Hulkster. Now, on the next episode of Saturday Night's Main Event, Brutus Beefcake was facing Randy Savage when Zeus showed up again, viciously attacking Beefcake. Hogan ran in to make the save, but Savage nailed Hogan with a chair, setting up this tag team match that we're seeing tonight.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense now.
All right, so before the match starts, we get our introduction to somebody we haven't seen before. It's the Genius, a.k.a. Lanny Poffo, who is the real-life brother of Randy Savage. So this was his gimmick. He would manage wrestlers, but before their matches, he would read a poem about the guy he was managing.
It was at this very moment. I question if either all these wrestlers and Vince are on drugs or if I am on drugs while watching the show, and I don't know it because this man in a red graduation outfit, complete with the little flat hat, is reading poetry. And I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah, it's
And he didn't get like an intro or anything. Like he just shows up.
Yeah. I don't know. I just don't know. Why does Zeus always look like he's either trying to hold in a poop or get rid of a stuck poop?
I don't know. I was just way too distracted by the obviously painted on unibrow. I couldn't see anything past it. I hate it.
It's like Santino when he had that unibrow for all those years. Santino Marella.
But it's almost like a Bobby Lashley thing because it looks painted on, like, you know?
Well, glad that Hogan is wearing his WWF championship to the ring so he could be reminded that we aren't getting a title match tonight. That's great. Also, I know that you're all waiting for it. The Brutus Beefcake tights update. So it doesn't look like the disease has spread. However, the holes in his tights are now bright pink. So either somebody determined that Brutus was showing too much skin or Brutus is now tanning with Pepto-Bismol.
Well, you better be careful because that Pepto-Bismol tan will turn like greenish black in about 12 hours if it's anything like what it does to your tongue or your poo. Like that stuff's weird, man. It'll do you like remember like I remember taking Pepto-Bismol as a kid and the next morning my tongue being black and I was like, oh, that's freaky. Yeah.
I don't know if the current version that's like the smooth kind of chewy version, I don't know if it does the same thing or not. I'd have to do some experiments.
I got the stomach bug from hell like a month or two ago, and I took so much Pepto-Bismol, and good Lord, I thought I was dying because when I went to the bathroom, it was black, and I Googled it, and it said that I was internally bleeding and dying, but then it was like, or if you took Pepto-Bismol, it's a bismuth. I'm like, you should have started with that.
Yeah, put that at the top, please.
Right? Oh, God. Terrible.
Come on, WebMD. Well, the Fink introduces Miss Elizabeth, and the crowd goes nuts for her. And Tony says that Elizabeth is a lady who stands by her man. But she's not, Tony. She's literally in the opposite corner from her man.
I am like so disappointed in her. Like, I hope Sensational Sherry rips her to shreds, but like, I was really shocked by the crowd reaction. Like, do you remember her being that big of a deal?
I mean, I do, but looking back on it with this eye is kind of like, I don't know if people really thought about it. Was it just because she was pretty and sweet?
I think it's because she was tied to Hogan.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah, that didn't help, or that didn't hurt, rather.
Right. Well, Jesse says that she's a double gold digger. Again, Jesse, you're my dude because we're the same.
Well, Hogan and Brutus keep raking Zeus's eyes. Yeah. Raking Zeus's eyes. I don't need to make a joke. Just did.
Yeah, well, but for real, like I'm kind of surprised that WWF hired him because Vince is like super shallow, but then again we have the Bushwhackers, so
He's an attraction. You gotta have him. Fairly blah match here, honestly. Macho Man hits Brutus with Sherry's purse, and Brutus is out cold. So there's something heavy in that purse. Maybe a brick, maybe a gold bar, maybe Hogan's creative control. I don't know. Something in there.
Wham.
But here's the finish, okay? Sherry is standing on the bottom rope. Elizabeth grabs Sherry's ankles and flips her over into the ring. Hogan grabs Sherry's loaded purse, whacks Zeus with it. Hogan is a heel. And then hits a body slam for the 1-2-3. Brutus Beefcake and Hulk Hogan win the match in just over 15 minutes.
Of course.
Of course. Post-match, Sherry is in the ring with Hogan. Hogan lifts Sherry up and hits an atomic drop on her. Let me repeat that. Hogan hits an atomic drop on Sherry Martel. Hogan is a heel.
And that's why I did not go to the grocery store to meet him.
Come here, brother. I'll show you what I did to Sherry back in 89.
I know.
Yeah. Well, Elizabeth hits Sherry with the loaded purse. So screw it. Elizabeth's a heel too. Sherry is face down, out cold, and Elizabeth lifts up Sherry's long ponytail. That's when Brutus comes in with the pruning shears and cuts Sherry's ponytail off right in the middle. Whack. And Hogan even puts some of Sherry's hair on his own head. So now you're a heel to bald men too, Hogan. Just putting that out there.
Okay, but like, was that her real hair? Because if so, she's a real one. Like, mega props.
It was not her real hair.
Dang it. Why?
It was not. Nope. They added an extension so it could happen.
Man, I would have done it for real.
But did I mention that I love Jesse Ventura? Have I said that before?
You did, but you can keep going because I love hearing it.
Because when they show the replay, we see Hogan delivering the atomic drop to Sherry again. And Jesse says, on the replay here, you'll see a shot of Hulk Hogan abusing a woman. To which Tony Schiavone says, we'll see you in November for Survivor Series. Good night. And that's the end of the show. So what are your final thoughts on Survivor Series 89?
Well, this is actually SummerSlam 1989.
Oops. I just gave away what notes I was working on this afternoon.
It's all good. Man, I don't know if it was them or if it was me. I had a real hard time focusing during this pay-per-view. And again, it could have been me. It could have just been the week. I thought the title match with Ultimate Warrior and Rick Rude was great, but yeah, I thought this main event was a letdown. I feel like the Hulk, Elizabeth, Randy Savage thing is going on a little bit too long, which is weird because I'm watching these pay-per-views back to back, so I can't imagine being in real time. But I felt like there was just something very off about this pay-per-view, and I don't know if it's because Gorilla's not there. I don't know if there was like that snafu with the SummerSlam sign falling down, and it just feels like it's kind of chaotic, but not in a good way, maybe. Normally I love pay-per-views and I have a lot of good things to say about them, but this one was just weird to me. That's the best word I have, is weird.
Yeah, and it, to me, like, I didn't hate it. I mean, it was just kind of there, and it was like, I feel like so many they've been building up the presentation of these pay-per-views as we've gone along over the years, and they've meant more, and they've been better, and they've, and it kind of felt like this one was just a little stagnant, kind of like,
it was a step back.
In a way, yeah, it felt that way.
Yeah, and it was almost like they were trying something new with all of these like incredibly cracked out, like zany interviews, and it's like they were like, let's do this and see how it works. And I don't know if it worked back then. Maybe it's just my 2024 mind that I'm like, that did not work. But it's like they had this formula that was working and then they strayed from it, and it didn't pay off quite,
Yeah. They've got to find the path back. I mean, they're still the biggest game in town, but it takes work to keep that.
Definitely. Well, after this pay-per-view, let's talk about what happened. So Rick Rude spent the rest of the year feuding with Roddy Piper and his butt with his haggis or whatever in it. It all culminated in a steel cage match with Piper coming out on top. I like that. Well, meanwhile, Ultimate Warrior spent a good chunk of time defending the the Intercontinental Championship against Andre the Giant on house shows. Strange, right? Like, why would you use up Andre's gas on house shows? But
Yeah.
I guess they were kind of a bigger deal back then. But these were usually like 30-second squash matches, as again, like Andre's health continued to suffer. So why did you make him travel to all those places and do it? I don't get it. Anyway,
Yeah.
in October,
You know what? That's the thing I wonder too. If they hadn't been traveling so much, how much would it have prolonged Andre's career / life?
yeah, that's true. It's almost like they were trying to like milk him for everything they could get before like he absolutely couldn't wrestle. But maybe if they would have slowed it down, they would have had him longer. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. Man, well, in October, the Brainbusters lost the WWF Tag Team Match Championship to Demolition. I mean, no surprise there. But on
Yeah.
November 1st, Tully Blanchard was fired from the WWF for failing a drug test, which I mean, he was like the most normal one on this pay-per-view. So what the hell?
Yeah.
Well, Arn Anderson then teamed up with Haku until Survivor Series. I'm gonna guess that was not the same chemistry. That just
Yeah, and it's also they were trying to fill a gap for as long as they needed to, right?
right.
And all of a sudden, if Arn doesn't have somebody and Haku doesn't have somebody, try it.
It's kind of like the Ricky Starks Big Bill thing. Just didn't work.
Right.
But anyway, hey, Big Bill got married this week.
Oh, yeah.
To the girl that's
Lexi Nair.
Yeah. I was like, not Renee, but the other one. Yes.
Yeah.
And I had no idea they were even together. Wow. Super cool. I saw Julia Hart. I zoomed in. I was like, who's at that wedding? I saw Julia Hart. Looked beautiful, of course. But anyway, back to after the pay-per-view. Haku also formed a tag team with Andre the Giant, known as the Colossal Connection. And again, this was a way to get Andre in front of a crowd, but limit the amount of work he actually had to do in the ring. Now, Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage continued to feud over the WWF Championship in a series of steel cage matches on the house show circuit. Meanwhile, Zeus would start appearing in the corner of Ted DiBiase as DiBiase started a new push for a title match against Hogan. The whole Hogan, Beefcake, Savage, Zeus thing would be settled at the end of the year on a pay-per-view that we haven't quite figured out how we're going to cover yet because we talked about it, but
How do you cover a one-match pay-per-view? I don't know, but
it'll be a very short episode. I think we have to cover it.
I mean, I guess we do. I don't know. We'll figure something out.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's about it. But before we go, we need some more.
Wrestle stats.
Ooh, there's damn wrestle stats. So let's get into some of the updates. Randy Savage had another match on this show, so that means he bumps up a little bit. He still, I should say, has the most matches on pay-per-views we've watched with 16 matches. If you haven't been following along, if you're new here, he was in the tournament on the Wrestling Classic and the tournament on WrestleMania 4. So that really bumped him up as he had like 3 or 4 matches on both of those shows. Also, we have now a tie for the most losses on pay-per-views we've watched. With 8 losses, Greg Valentine now ties with Tito Santana. Poor Chico. Yeah. Let's talk rematches. We had a couple on this show. Out of the 203 matches that we've watched on Wrestle Recap, 9 of them have been rematches. That's up to 4.43% over the years. And out of those 203 matches, 72 of them have been title matches. That's down this week since we only had 1 title match to 35.47%. And hey, more stats like that on Current Wrestling you can find on Twitter, on Blue Sky, and on Threads at WrestleStats. The stats have been a little sparse lately because I'm traveling all over the damn planet here recently. In fact, when the show comes out, I'm not in town. So if you want to check those out on, again, Twitter, Blue Sky, and Threads, it is at WrestleStats. But Michelle talks to people online too.
I do. I get on AIM all the time in MSN Messenger. Oh wait, I gotta get out of the time machine. So you can talk to me at Michelle Tater. I will talk to you just about anything. I like when people reach out, especially listeners from the show. But you can also reach out to both of us at Wrestle Recap on Blue Sky, Twitter, all the things. If you have, suggestions or anything you want to talk about, I can't guarantee we will take the suggestions, but yeah, you can never know who you're going to get when you message there. It's kind of whoever looks at their phone first. So that can be kind of fun. But Justin, what are we talking about next week?
Next week, we go back to NWA WCW for the first ever Halloween Havoc 1989. 2 title matches on the show, plus the newly formed alliance of Ric Flair and Sting in a brand new kind of match that we've never seen before, and with good reason.
What does that mean?
We'll see next week. But as for this week's episode, I only have one thing to say.
What is it?